Oh, yeah, let's play this. This is the TYT stuff. This is, the TYT, the investigative team has been pretty hot on the case of Buttigieg in South Bend and what's happening there. And, Buttigieg has a real problem with black voters in terms of coming around. And this is this is not just simply I think to a certain extent what Buttigieg is trying to do is make it about the fact that he's gay and married. And
he would love for it to be about that.
And there may be, to some extent, there may be some truth to it in the context of a lot of the southern states. Tends to be socially more conservative people going to church. There's definitely some homophobia in this church.
That is cross-demographic, though. So if he has Democratic African-American voters, it's very lined up now in terms of equality. So in terms of gay equality. So if he's trying to pivot it on that, that's a bit dishonest.
Well, yes, I think it is a dishonest. I mean, it may show up more in the relative to the Democratic Party because you have less white. You have less white voters.
Sure, but it's a geographic more so than racial thing, right?
And so, but the other reason why he has a problem with black voters is because of the way that he's been dealing with the black community in South Bend. And there are police tapes that were ultimately, that apparently resulted in the demotion of the city's first black police chief. And now there's continued to be a demand that we want to hear these tapes that led to this demotion. We want to know what was on them. And here is some folks in the South Bend black community calling for the release of these tapes.
Fury among some in South Bend that the police tapes have yet to be heard by the public. However, a national news and current events organization called the Young Turks, or TYT, has reported the tapes contain plans to influence Mayor Pete Buttigieg to put certain people in positions of power in the police department. Those tapes led to the demotion of Police Chief Darryl Boykins and the communications director getting fired. The mayor's presidential campaign calling the TYT reporting unsubstantiated allegations and rumors.
The reality is there's no legal justification for the tapes not to be heard. It's cost millions of dollars of taxpayer money, and now we've got a city council that's arguing over whether the tapes should be played.
Last week, 16 News Now reported the South Bend Common Council met behind closed doors to discuss whether or not they should go forth with a 7-year lawsuit over the tapes being released publicly. Council President Tim Scott said in a statement, the Young Turks has for the first time revealed documents that could independently establish what is on the recordings without the need to actually listen to the recordings.
This will not go away until what is on the tapes has been made public to the citizens.
Like Mario said, there's no reason why we haven't been given this Band-Aid, if you will, this wound healing information that we need.
As for a comment on the story, the mayor's office spokesman told me that, quote, right now the tapes are under court order and we are awaiting the judge's decision.
Right. And now you got to ask yourself, why wouldn't you release the tapes? There's two reasons, right? One could be that the way that the people are talking on these tapes, and I don't know who the tapes are between necessarily. Do we know exactly?
It's like cops on the force.
Cops. How they're talking about different people in the community might be offensive to different people in the community. That could be part of it. And it's just like a decorum thing. But when you're talking about spending millions of dollars in not providing this type of transparency, it starts to reek of there is a problem there. And, this isn't like the municipal security of South Bend. If somehow the criminals hear about our police procedures, we're going to be, national. Like, what is the excuse for this? There is no excuse. there is no excuse. We're just so trained to sort of accept this idea of like, well, government secrets. I mean, like, where's the national security interest here? It's absurd. It's absurd.
That was such a actual lesson for you talking just in general about secrecy of the Manning, what she exposed in terms of not only the criminal wrongdoing of so much U.S. foreign policy, but just also the incredible like crazy doublespeak of the national security state, because it was like, this is all life and death stuff, and these are top secret cables, and having it be exposed is going to jeopardize everybody. And oh yeah, this was actually, she was a relatively low level, intelligence officer, and this stuff was basically accessible to thousands of people, just sort of general internet traffic. Like, overclassification is a major issue in and of itself.
Yeah, and people should follow Jonathan Larson of TYT Investigates. He's done all this work, basically. And just to, reportedly, one of the cops on the tapes, a guy named Tim Corbett, was, said a whole bunch of racist things, including things about the new black sheriff and about how, his race and how he was upset about that. Corbett later, last year, he ran for sheriff. And he had a loan underwritten by 3 different guys. One of them was his lawyer during the whole tapes thing. The second one was Pete Buttigieg's special counsel during the tapes thing. And the third was Pete Buttigieg's longtime, basically, political patron since day one.
Pete Buttigieg is absolutely horrible. He's an agent of corporations. He's an agent of Zuckerberg, and he managed a tiny college town with racism and gentrification.
By appeasing racist police force.
And he's getting funded by oligarchs. He is truly awful.
He's trying to be the new Biden, right? The new establishment candidate. But Biden refuses to die, so...
I personally think that Buttigieg is going to be a problem.
He is going to be a problem. I'd pick Biden over Buttigieg.
Absolutely.
We'll see. I mean, he could be. It's not inconceivable to me that he's comes in 2 or 3 in Iowa.
Let's get after him now, folks.
Well, he has so much money, and he can just dump it there in such a small place.
Yep. And we'll see.